Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be my August wrap up. You guys already know by the title. Here's all of the books that I read this month. It's only 5, so it's probably going to be a pretty short wrap up, and I'm not picking a TBR for the month of September, so it's just going to be my wrap up in this video. And like I said, it's probably going to be pretty short, but nonetheless I thought that I would talk about it. So let's just get into it. I'm consulting my August reading journal spread, so very exciting. And let's start with the first book that I read in August. The first book that I read is Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer, I think is how you say this. And this is a romantasy, kind of, also a mystery. I think that the way that I talked about this book, I read this in a reading vlog obviously, but the way that I think that I talked about this book was that it was just a romance, and you kind of had to separate it from fantasy because there is little to no world building in this book, which is not a problem, but it's also not a good thing, you know? Like, I think that if you take this book and read it and you're like looking for a really good fantasy with, you know, a good world, you're not gonna get it from this book. There is a map, which is nice, but it's dual point of view, so you get the villain, who is the villain, and the male love interest, and Evie, who is the assistant to the villain, who is the female love interest. And there's not a ton of romance. Like, it is kind of slow burn, but it's also not. Like, it's very apparent that these characters are attracted to each other, but there's not a huge development in the relationship. And like I said, there's little to no world building. So the villain is this villain, and he's a bad person. He kills people, and you have no idea why. And you have no idea why he hates the king of this land so much. You do get a little bit of backstory into it, but it's not as much as you would be hoping for, or like as much as you would want from something that is marketed as this like huge fantasy book. But with all that being said, I did give it a 4.5 because I genuinely really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. The romance. I think I said this when I talked about it, that I had to separate it from being a fantasy book and just think of it as like a romance with little plot, because there was plot in it, but like I said, there was no world building, so it was kind of hard to follow the plot. And the whole plot of this was basically that someone is on the inside working for the villain and also betraying him, and you kind of have to figure out who this person is. And there was a really big plot twist in the end, so like that was good. And the romance between the characters was good. Other than that, there was little to no world building, so it didn't really feel like a fantasy book. To me, it just felt like a romance. Or like a thriller, maybe? Like something with a mystery? I don't know. Still, I gave it a 4.5, and I did really enjoy it, but like I said, I did think that it was not a fantasy. But I do have the second book, and I do want to read it soon because it was good, but it just wasn't what I think that everyone said it was going to be. I don't know how the author is marketing this book, but I know a lot of people are talking about it as being a really good romantasy, but I just don't see it as being a fantasy book. I just kind of see it as being a romance that happens to be set in typical fantasy setting, which is maybe how it was supposed to be. I mean, this book is really funny, but which is maybe how it was supposed to be. But I just feel like the more I saw people talking about, the more I was under the impression that it was a fantasy, and it just really wasn't. But I still gave it a 4.5. I still really enjoyed it. So the next book that I read this month was a graphic novel. It was Laur Olympus by Rachel Smythe. And this is a modern world Greek mythology retelling, and it's a graphic novel, so it's got pictures, which I have been really into graphic novels recently. I got into Heartstopper, and then I kept seeing these in like the graphic novel section, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love Greek mythology retellings. I'm a big fan of them, so I was like, I'm gonna try this out. And I will say, I did give this like a 4, and it was really fast paced, obviously because it's a graphic novel. I read it in one day, and it's like, it doesn't have page numbers, but I feel like it's like 100 pages, and it was really good. The only thing that I didn't like about it was the fact that it was supposed to be like this modern retelling where like it's Hades and Persephone is in college. Basically, she goes to this party, she gets carried out of this party by Hades, and everyone is like, whoa, they slept together, and like, they didn't. But everyone is like, dude, you can't sleep with her because you're like really old. Like, I don't know, I feel like the equivalent of it is like if he was like 60 and she's like 18. This kind of thing is odd when books are like, oh, you're really old and I'm really young, and like the guy is like, you're so young and you're so naive, but like, I'm still extremely attracted to you and I want to sleep with you. Like, it's a little odd. But I'm disregarding it because it is Greek mythology retelling, and I think that it's fake anyway. But with all that being said, I did really enjoy this book, and I want to get all of them, and I'm very upset, and I will say this, that the fourth book is the only book in this series that is a different color. All of them are like blue and pink, purple, and the fourth one is green for some reason. But anyway, I really enjoyed this book. It is very interesting. You get a lot of different point of views in this, like there's a lot going on in here. Like I said, it's a Greek mythology retelling. It's, if you know the story, then you know like what's gonna be in here, but it's just, I guess, a love story between Hades and Persephone. I don't know if they all are or if just like the first few are, so I don't know. But I gave this a 4, and I did really enjoy this book. And then the next book that I read was You with a View by Jessica Joyce. This is a romance. I did not like this book. I gave it a 2 because I didn't like it. I remember reading this and I thought that like the first 100 pages, I'm pretty sure this book is like 350 pages. The first 100 pages is them. Okay, back up. The premise of this book is that the female main character, Noelle, posts a picture of her grandma with some guy that she doesn't recognize on TikTok. And she's like doing the typical TikTok thing of like, TikTok, help me find this person's grandson. Like, if this is your grandpa, let me know. And basically someone does reply, and she wants to know like what the story is between this guy. She like finds letters from this guy like to her grandma, and she's like, who is he? And the concept is very cute. And then she meets the grandpa, and the grandson ends up being her high school rival, which, I don't know, I'm like pretty sure I knew people that I was like close with in high school. Like, I knew their grandparents, so like I feel like she would have known this kid's grandma or this kid's grandpa if like she was actually as close with him as she said that she was. Like, I know I said like high school rival, but these people spent so much time together in high school. Like, I feel like if you were at like something, like some event, you know, like a spelling bee, for example, it wasn't a spelling bee, but it was something, like you would see his grandpa. So it ends up being her high school rival, and she is like, oh, this trip that you guys planned was supposed to be their honeymoon. Basically, the grandma and the grandpa were gonna elope, and then they were gonna go on this like honeymoon road trip. And she was like, I'm gonna go because I think it's gonna get me closer with my grandma, because she was really close with her, and she was like, I want to know like why she was so fond of this like road trip idea. And then the grandpa's like, okay, I'll go with you. And then the grandson is like, Theo is his name, the grandson is like, okay, me too. So now she's going on this road trip with her high school rival and her high school rival's grandfather, and they're going on a road trip, and they're like hooking up during this road trip, and it's just like they're literally in the same house. At one point they were in an Airbnb with the grandpa, and it was 1 bedroom, and the grandpa got the bed because he's old and frail and needs to like help his back or whatever, and they're like hooking up on the couch when he could come out at any moment. There wasn't an ensuite bathroom. The bathroom was in the hall, and he could come out and see them, and they're like hooking up. That's disgusting. That's gross. And also disrespectful. You shouldn't be doing that in the same home as a grandparent or a parent or anyone. Gross. Yuckies. But I just thought it was weird. Like, the concept was weird. So like at one point they were hooking up, and the grandfather like knocked on her bedroom door. This was in like a different Airbnb. Knocked on her bedroom door and was like, do you want breakfast? Does Theo also want breakfast? Extremely disrespectful, I think, personally, but I guess some people don't care about that, which is weird because I feel like you definitely should. But anyway, yeah, I didn't like this book. It was also like paced weird. Like, it was like the first 100 pages was her talk, and this isn't a very long book, so it's not like you have 100 pages of space to take up where you can just talk about like her sad life, having no job and no money and living in her childhood bedroom, and her mom coming in every morning waking her up to run on the treadmill or Peloton or whatever. So like I said, it was paced weird. Like, it was the first 100 pages she was talking about like being sad, wanting to get to know her grandma because her grandma just died, and like whatever. And the next like 100 pages was of the road trip. And then the next 150 pages, like the last 150 pages, they were out of the road trip and they weren't talking. Like, it was like a third act breakup, but it wasn't third act, and they just literally were not talking to each other for no reason at all. It was stupid. I didn't like this book. I really didn't. Which is a shame because I liked the concept. Like, the concept was good, but a lot of people said this book was so good and I just didn't like it. I feel like this is a rare instance when I feel such, like, not hatred, but, like, strong distaste for a book. The next book I read was Laur Olympus Volume 2 by Rachel Smythe. It's the second book in the Laur Olympus series. It's just literally a continuation. Again, it has pictures in it, but literally just a continuation of the first book, like directly after it. So not much to say, just more of the same story. The first book ended on a cliffhanger. This one did not. So I feel like I don't have like as strong of an urge as I did to read the third one, because I haven't read the third one yet, but I definitely want to this month in September. But I feel like I don't like need to because this book didn't leave on a cliffhanger. So I don't know if the third book's gonna pick up exactly where this one left off, like the second one did with the first one, because it wasn't a cliffhanger. But maybe I'm just remembering it wrong. Maybe it was, but I didn't think it was. I don't know. But I did really enjoy this book. I gave this book a 4 as well. I feel like I have a hard time giving graphic novels 5 stars because I feel like they're not full of anything like of substance. But I think that like that's really harsh. Like, I know that they are, like, especially Heartstopper is very much, like, has, like, a very big plot and, like, a very big, like, message. It has a very big, like, important message in it, so obviously like, I know that, but I think that my brain just tells me that, like, they're not, like, regular books, so I, like, can't give them 5 stars, but I think that if my brain would allow me to give graphic novels 5 stars, I would give this series, it would be a 6-star series for me, probably, but for some reason, I just, like, I don't think of this and I'm like, this is a 5, in my head, like, the highest that this book could get is like a 3. Like, this is out of 3 stars, not out of 5, because it's got pictures and not a lot of words. But I feel like that's really mean. And that's probably just like a me problem, because I think I gave Heartstopper 5 stars. I don't even know what I'm saying right now. Moving on to the last book that I read this month, which was The Dinner List by Rebecca Surley. This is, oh my god, I haven't even been talking about genre. I think this is women's fiction. It's based off the concept of, like, if you could have dinner with 5 people dead or alive, who would it be? And it's our main character's dinner with her 5 people dead or alive. And you get flashback chapters of her love story with her ex-boyfriend, Tobias, I think is his name. Yeah. And her name is Sabrina. She's 30. It's her 30th birthday party, and she's at dinner with 5 people dead or alive. It's her dad, her best friend, Audrey Hepburn, a college professor, and her ex-boyfriend. So it's basically just a book about, like, life and love, and she kind of struggles a lot with people moving on without her, like, when she's not ready, and it talks a lot about, like, grieving people that are still there when, like, they've moved on without you, and, like, you weren't ready for them to move on, but obviously everyone's lives keep moving. What? Everyone's lives keep moving. Everyone's lives keeps moving. Everyone's lives
keep moving.
Keep moving. Everyone's lives keeps
Keep.
Obviously everyone's lives keep moving. So anyway, everyone is moving on, and she's not ready for them to move on, and she kind of harbors this resentment for them, and like this, she has like a lot of anger towards them because they're moving on and she's not ready. And a lot of the dinner is talking about like why she has this issue, and like they're trying to help her like fix it. And I definitely did not see the book going the way that it did. I thought that it was just going to be a story about her finding herself and being like happy where she was, and it wasn't. There was a huge plot twist in this book that I did not see coming at all, and it made a lot of sense after the plot twist happened, because I realized that you probably couldn't have seen it coming, but maybe if I read it again I would have been like, oh, that makes sense, because the way that she was like describing some of her like emotions at this dinner, I was like, why are you describing it like that? But it makes a lot of sense, and I really like this book. I gave it a 4.5. I think that it wasn't a 5-star for me just because I think that there was it's a really short book, and I still feel like there was some like unnecessary stuff in it. Like a lot of the dinner chapters, there was like random conversations of like her professor like falling in love with Audrey Hepburn, and it was like, I don't understand that, because it wasn't helpful to the story at all. It was just like filler. It was just filler when like there was nothing else to say. She was just like, oh, I noticed Audrey Hepburn is falling in love with my college professor. Like, it was a little weird. But I still really enjoyed the book. I don't read a lot of women's fiction, but I kind of want to get into it more. And I really liked her writing, and I want to read her book. Just came out. I think it's called like One Italian Summer or something. Did it just come out? Yeah. No, it came out 2 years ago. That's embarrassing. It did come out 2 years ago, but that's okay. I think it's just about a woman like connecting with her mom, if I'm not mistaken. But I do want to read it because I really did like the writing, and I did really like the book. That's why I gave it a 4.5. That was the last book that I read in the month of August. So I know I only read 5 books last month, but I didn't read a single book on my TBR, so I'm not picking one for September. That's kind of part of the reason why I'm not picking one for September, because when I had a TBR in June, I didn't read any of the books off of it, so I didn't pick a TBR for July. And then I was like, I read so many books in July, I was like, I want to pick a TBR. But honestly, I think picking a TBR makes it harder for me to like read the books. I feel like I'm like, I should be reading these books, but I don't want to. So I'm not picking one for September, and I'm going to see how that goes. But do you guys want to see my September journal spread? Let me know if you guys read any of these books. Give me some book recommendations. I love book recommendations. I always want book recommendations, please. Also, let me know if you liked You With a View, because I didn't like that book. As I said earlier. But let me know if you liked it, because maybe like I'm missing something, and maybe I will like it if someone else tells me that it's like so good and like I have to give it another chance and like see it from a different point of view. Then maybe I would like it. I don't know. But with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed hearing about all the books that I read in August, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye! Mwah.